Yo, what's going on guys? This is going to be a macro guide for the new Adventure Odyssey. In this guide I'll only be focusing on Ragna because that's what I've already got in foreign. It probably would work for escanor and Sungjung as well, you just need to get to a point where your autoplay can win the stages for you. I would recommend starting this macro once you've already bought out all of the modifiers that you can get from Odyssey, or just having this one where you get more placements for every elite boss killed. And then the only other thing you probably need to know is when you're in the shop, make sure you put this range boost memoria on your Ragna, because if you didn't know, Ragna's passive where he keeps buffs from his previous placements works with this memoria, and this memoria buffs range. So Ragna's main weakness, which is having a really small range, just gets completely eliminated because he stacks 5% over and over and over again, and it makes it really hard to lose, so make sure you choose that. And the only other thing I would say before we start is make sure that you've played before and set your autoplay position to closer to the front. Some maps, just the automatic placement that autoplay gives you is a little bit far back, so you can just move that forwards to the front and it'll save there, so that whenever you're on that stage again, you place at the front, because when he first gets placed, his range is pretty small and it makes it easier for him to stack damage. If he's right at the front, he's already attacking enemies, whereas if he's getting placed further back, you have to wait for his range to get bigger or the enemies to run towards him, and then he'll start attacking, and you'll just have lower damage for no reason. So make sure you do that before you start macroing. Also quickly to mention, this isn't fully AFK. You will need to be watching your screen because of the treasure rooms. For those, you would just need to pause the macro, quickly collect all the chests, and then turn it back on. But this macro just makes it a lot easier to farm up to floor 1440, because obviously if you're doing 1400 floors manually, that's going to get very boring. So if you're able to just leave your PC running and then every maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes having to do a little treasure floor and then put it back on macroing, it's much easier. So that's kind of the point of this macro. And now I'll get into the guide. To quickly add on, I'm sure you don't, but if you do have the treasure hunter card on, make sure you turn that off. You do not want to be having a higher chance of getting treasure rooms. And now that I'm actually in the stage, before I show you how to set up the macro, there are three things that you'll need to have done. First is to turn on autoplay. The second is to have all the modifiers bought, and then the third is to have elite conquests with some decent placement stacked up. The other two, just get some good ones. I have the fully AoE one, and I got this one which gives immunity and buffs damage by 100%. And then the first one you need to make sure is not elite conquest. This has to just be some random cards, and I'll show you why in a second. Once you have all those ready, we're going to be using informal, and this is because with informal you get access to the drawing tool, which if I click Ctrl G, you can see up here the draw menu, change the color to red just so it's easy to see. With this, it lets you, if you hold Control and then you click, you can draw on the screen, which usually is quite useless, but for this macro, we need to click on things that are not going to be on the screen. We're going to be using the draw tool to mark where it is so that we can click it when we're recording our macro. And you can easily get rid of drawings by clicking the backspace button. So to start off with the macro, I would recommend getting to a shop floor, because apart from the regular stages, the only other times you're going to need to click somewhere that isn't just clicking on each stage and starting it is to click off of the shops once you open them. And then the other one is clicking off the cards. When you beat one of these elite boss rooms, it shows character specific cards that you can get, and unfortunately the way the macro works is it's just going to keep repeating itself. Unless Informal adds an option for Adventure Odyssey, there's no way to know when you're done a run, so this macro is just going to spam click and go into stages and then beat them and then do it again. So we need to add countermeasures for when we beat a boss room or when we enter a shop room, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. So first thing you're going to want to do is find a shop room and get there before you start the macro, and then once you're in the shop, we're going to use our drawing tool and we're going to draw a circle around where the X is, and once you've drawn that you can just click off, and as you can see that stays there. This is kind of unfortunate, I have a boss room next, so I'll beat this and I'll show you, because you need to start where there's the regular skulls. Alright, so once you've got the things next, whenever you finish a run it moves up the map a little bit, so this is always going to work. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to want to Control click to draw a line that goes through all of these, so you just have a baseline for where you should click, and then draw a circle around this big, because if you look, you can see they're not direct on top of each other, they can be a little bit to the side, a little bit to the side, so just draw a space so that you definitely will click it, and then do the same thing for all of these skulls. And then once you've set up these, you know where it's going to be clicking, and once you've done that, you're going to want to do the same thing, and then where this says ping this floor, just draw a circle around the middle. This is because when you click on another floor, you can see the select this floor replaces the ping this floor, and if you're not clicking on one you can get to, so for example if you're maybe here and then it clicks on this over here, it'll just ping it, which doesn't do do anything, it just puts a little thing on it, so it won't break the macro. And now once we've done this, once we've drawn where the X is on the shops, we've drawn a circle where the button is to click enter the floor. Once we've drawn a circle for where we should be clicking to get to the next stage, you can make the macro. So what you're going to do first is Control R, and you'll see this change because we're going to start recording. And once you've done that, you're going to want to turn on your auto clicker and then click across the circle and stop auto clicking, click where your circle is, and then do the same for the rest. And now you can see why we would do this with the circles, because once you enter a game, you can actually see where you're supposed to be clicking. So right now all I'm doing is just going across the circle slowly while auto clicking to make sure that once I do like hover over the next floor, it clicks on it 100%. So if you go slowly, then you're not going to miss it. And you just want to do that on all four. But every single time you do it, turn it on and then stop and then click, and then just repeat until you've done all four. And this is just so you don't accidentally click on other floors and then just break your macro. And then clicking up here is just for if you get on a floor where there's a shop, then you can click off it and you won't just get stuck there. And then for the other things that pop up, which is when you beat one of these bosses, it shows in the middle a memoria and a familiar. We can just ignore that because these are above the buttons that choose the memoria and the familiar. So buttons are down here and we're clicking up here, so we're not going to click that, and there's a timer so it goes away and you don't get soft locked. The other thing that pops up is when you beat a boss room, it will show character specific cards that you can choose for your run, and unfortunately when you're clicking on these, you will just click on those cards anyways, so it's kind of impossible to add a way that skips the middle cards every single time, just because of the way this macro is made, where it's not like informal where it can see once you beat a floor and then it can click off of whatever. This is just a repeating macro, so the macro has no way of knowing if you've just beaten a boss floor and you're clicking on cards. It's just going to keep clicking where you set the macro to click. So that's why in our character cards we keep the first one as a placeholder, because the slot 1 is the one that will get replaced every single time. So as long as your slot 1 just gets replaced with nonsense, it doesn't matter, because Elite Conquest is the only one that really matters, and then the other two are just nice to have and you don't want to get rid of them. So getting rid of the first slot and keeping the first slot as a placeholder is what you need to do. And now that I've done that, I'll show an example of this working, and then that'll be the end of the video. And just in case you don't know, you can pull this down to see all the keybinds. So Control R to record, Control play once, this is pretty useless, you're probably never going to use this. Control L is to loop, which just means it will play back over and over and over again, which is what we will be using. Control A can stop the playback, and by stop that means basically deleting it. So if you do want to save this, once you're finished recording it, so you would click Control R to record, and then when you're done recording, you would click Control R to end the recording. After that you would save, and then you can load it whenever you want, and once you've done that, then you can click Control L to start playing it. But if you start playing it and then try and save, it won't work. Control D to exit, that'll just close down informal task. F2 to pause, unpause. This is what I didn't mention before. When you get a treasure room, you're going to get stuck because your macro can't run around and collect all the chests. So this is why it's a semi AFK macro, because when you do get on a treasure floor, you're going to need to F2 to pause, go and collect all the chests, and then unpause and it'll keep macroing. Control H to auto click. This is just how you can auto click if you don't have your own auto clicker, you can do that and it'll work. Control G, this is how you get the draw menu. We already saw this though, so there you go. And now I'll show you the macro working. I'll do like 5 floors and then we'll finish the video. Let's go. Okay, I got a treasure floor, so I guess that's a good example of what you do. If you do get a treasure floor, you can just pause, collect them all, and then if you unpause, it does a little glitch thing, but that's fine, and then it'll start working. So I'll now do 5 runs and then you can see that it works, and that'll be the end of the video. Also, you can see this is quite slow. I was just doing it slowly so I could show on the video, but obviously the faster you record this, the faster your runs will be, because you'll be wasting less time just clicking on nothing. So try and do this a little bit quicker than I did, and it'll be optimal. Apart from that, this is how it'll be done. I'll just leave this and I'll be back in a couple floors once you see that it works. And as you can see with this macro, you can clear as many floors as you need to until you get to 1440 for the achievements. So that's going to be the end of the video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll try to reply to everyone. And yeah, see ya.